WWE legends Jerry Lynn and Mikey Whipwreck. Now, let's welcome your host, Mike Freland.
Good evening and welcome. It's another Tuesday night. My name is Mike Freland. You are locked into Front Row Material. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have ourselves a great episode for you guys tonight. Now, here's the thing. It's not just wrestling we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things on tonight's episode, but we have a phenomenal talent with us this week. We were so lucky to be able to squeeze him in. Schedules are busy, but you know what? We were able to pull it off and make it happen. Josh Woods is going to be joining us. You're going to be finding out so much about him, his career, his interests, everything. I might even ask him what type of pie he likes. I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. That's the kind of questions we ask here on this show. But we're glad that you're joining us, and wherever you happen to be listening to us, thank you for supporting our show as well. Our founders, Jerry Lynn and Mikey Whipwreck, we love these guys. They're always willing to help us out and lend a helping hand. So Jerry, Mikey, we love you very, very much. And all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. You guys have given us great numbers all over on our downloads. Please, if you know a wrestling fan who would love to listen to interviews, conversations, and all things in between, definitely let them know that we are here. All right, let's get all that junk out of the way. Let's get to the reason why we're all here. And this is Josh Woods, a successful pro wrestler. We're going to learn all about his career. So right now, let's go ahead and bring him in. Josh Woods, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am good. It's where are you at in your neck of the woods right now?
Is that like a last name joke, dude? Oh, good. I'm in Wesley Chapel, like Zephyr Hills, like North Tampa, so like about 30-40 minutes out of Tampa proper.
Okay, so you evaded that whole winter storm situation that hit the Northeast and the Midwest, and
I mean, let's see. Currently, it is.
You're gonna make a grown man cry right now.
Well, it's 51 degrees in Florida, so I mean that's pretty cold for us.
Oh, I would do anything for 51. I might even streak up and down my street to 51.
Yeah,
not that anyone would necessarily want to see that, but 51, that's not bad.
Hey, there's a market for every kind of body type, man. Don't downplay yourself.
Hey, hashtag I could be wrestling's Peter Griffin. I'm just telling you right now, we don't have that.
Peter's great.
That's right. Let me just ask you how you been as far as everything's been crazy with COVID, and we thought we were done with it, and now things are getting better. Are you able to stay healthy, and just what are some things that you have done just to kind of make sure, hey, I'm doing everything I need to do, even though it's really, really hard to stay healthy?
Man, I mean, I work out every day, and I try and go outside when I can. I walk my dog a lot. I actually had COVID for the second time in December. Yeah, that wasn't neat. And like nothing I could do about it. I mean, I take vitamins just like everyone else. About 5 days, a pretty sore throat, but other than that, a little bit of fevers and chill. But it was pretty done quickly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty healthy guy. I don't know. I sound like a little weirdo, but I take my vitamins. I eat right. I'm exercising, man. What about you, dude? How's it affected you, man? You all right?
Yeah, I'm a school teacher, so I am in.
You're like exposed. They're like petri dishes. Those kids.
Yes, absolutely. And I teach middle school, so between that and the BO, it's a surprise that you get home every single day in one piece. But you know, so much of the situation is just it's mental, it's psychological. You know, people need people, and we are creatures that need relationships with people, and we need to talk, and you know, social distancing and social learning, it is so difficult, and it really fits perfectly into pro wrestling because, you know, when people were wrestling and there was no audiences, that's got to be really hard because you get so much of your adrenaline and everything, and you play off the crowd and the crowd's emotions. You definitely got to tip your hat to people who were wrestling during the pandemic with no crowds. How difficult is that, in your opinion, to wrestle when there's not many people around?
I mean, what you're saying is true. You know, having fans and drawing from that kind of energy, it's really hard to describe what that feels like for people who have never done it. Yeah, so like you don't. I think for me personally, that was one thing I didn't really have to worry about when Ring of Honor was doing that was, oh man, I have to worry about this extra element. So now it's like, hey, we can tell this story in our matches, and And it did kind of suck to, take some moves. You're like, okay, there's no fans here. Why am I doing this? But you're still catering to the fans at home watching. And for me, like, I kind of like would joke around with the boys. I'm like, listen, man, like, just because that move isn't good, people at home might like it, and now you can just pretend that you're getting that reaction that you wanted. And then you're like, man, Wood, shut up. I'm like, no, I'm an optimistic guy, man. So it was a little weird at first. It's kind of weird seeing people come, like, when they do their entrance and they walk up and they get on the turnbuckle, like they're still doing their thing to the people. Like, that happened the first couple of shows, and then like everyone was kind of like talking smack to each other, and then that you see that notices it starts to die down a little bit. People just get in the ring and they get to it. So it wasn't really that difficult. I think it kind of made things a little easier. It's just you could slow down a little more, and especially for Ring of Honor, because we were doing the pure wrestling, and for that specific style of wrestling, introducing to the fans slowly while they were at home, might have been a little easier for us to do, because that style is like a very particular style, and I think like it definitely lets people appreciate it a little more. So when we came back, it was really good, for lack of better terms.
So the first thing I love asking people is, when it comes to wrestling, and you probably had this question 100,000 times, why wrestling? Like, of all the things that you could do, what was it? And when did you realize that wrestling was something that, you know what, it just kind of, it got me, the bug, if you will, no pun intended. But how and why was wrestling something that you decided, this is what I want to do?
Well, the why, because I'm good. No, I'm just kidding.
That is awesome.
It was more of a kind of like an accident, really. So when I had finished wrestling my senior year in 2014, and I had a mutual friend who did pro wrestling, and like I never really thought about doing, because I was doing MMA, and I'd been a casual fan as a child, so I just was kind of more into fighting and worrying about my college career. I linked up with my buddy Alex, and we trained a little bit. He's like, dude, you should contact NXT. They would love to have guys like you. And I was like, what? So I didn't think that was like an option. I was like, there's no way like I would get into that, because like I don't know. But like the more I talked about it, I was like, people like, dude, you should do that. You're like a total dork. Like you're a character. People would love it. I was like, all right. So like I sent them my accolades and that I was interested, and then they responded, and they're like, you want to try out? I was like, well, okay. So yeah, I tried out 2 months later, and then I signed October 2014, so a few months after I had tried out. And yeah, I fell in love with it because I just like I thrive in like learning. So when I transitioned from wrestling to BJJ and MMA, I engulfed myself in it, because I just love competing. I love learning. I love being challenged, and like wrestling was very challenging. Not so much the physical part, which was everything else. And like I just loved wanting to do it. And once it got released from NXT, you see a lot of people, they just either stop they stop or they keep going, right? But I was like, man, I'd spent the past 2 years of my life pretty much just dedicated to this. I'm not going to give up. And then I made it into Ring of Honor, and then here we are now, 4 years later.
Let's kind of touch upon the martial arts aspect of it, because the martial arts aspect fascinates me. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How do you land and decide what type of discipline you want to study under or you want to learn?
Well, originally I didn't want to fight. I wasn't like looking to compete. I was looking for something to do in between wrestling seasons in my college, because like I was really good at wrestling. I kind of have some accolades up there, but
you got a few.
Yeah, I have a couple. National title, whatever. Pish posh. So like Tom Lawler, who's a very accomplished MMA fighter and collegiate athlete, who at the time I didn't know he was into pro wrestling, but he went to my school, and I had asked our coach, like, hey, coach's name was Jason. I go, hey man, like what did Tom do in between wrestling? He's like, I don't know, ask him. So I reached out to Tom, and he got me up with Seth Petrozelli, who at the time was fighting in Bellator, and he owned a gym in Orlando, which was about 10-15 minutes from me. And he's like, dude, you link up with my buddy Seth, you guys train. So I was like, okay, cool. So in between my freshman and sophomore year, I trained with Seth, He had a fight coming up, and I actually cornered him for that fight. And we spent a lot of time wrestling. And I wasn't really trying to get into MMA at all. I just wanted to just cross train or do something else. But I ended up just every time he trained, I trained. So I ended up getting a kind of like a crash course in advanced training, and I started to pick up on it pretty easily. Not because like, oh, I'm a great athlete, but like I'm used to learning and I'm used to like being hands on. So when you're competing with guys who are such a high level, you either have to accelerate or get lost. And because my wrestling is really good, the transition in body control and positioning was really easy because they kind of go hand in hand together. And then he was like, well, hey, man, I got to spar later. You want to come spar with me? I'm like, no, I don't want to get hit. Don't hit me. I don't want that. So then I got into like doing some Muay Thai with him. And then I just started like just doing it more and more. And I had 4 fights in 2012 in like 2 months where I ended up fighting for the U.S. team in Sweden. And then I really wanted to focus more on wrestling. So during the off season of my junior and senior year, I didn't do any MMA stuff. I helped Seth, but I personally didn't do anything. And I cornered him for a couple more fights. And then when 2014 came, I was like, hey, WWE, I'm gonna fight. And they're like, maybe you shouldn't do anymore. And I'm like, oh, well, what does that mean? And then then I got signed. So I didn't really like think, oh, well, there's boxing and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. I just did what Seth did, and then I ended up just liking it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Seth is the one who had, and I watched it live, which was wickedly awesome. The match with Kimbo Slice and the Gus Johnson call, which I mark out for Gus Johnson completely. Whenever he calls something, that was a big deal.
Yeah, he took a last minute fight with a guy who everyone thought would beat everyone, and Seth knocked him out in 13 seconds, I think.
That was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Love that. What type of person is Seth when you were, obviously your relationship with him? What is he like as far as the way he, his demand on his training schedule, and how has that kind of influenced you?
Prior to knowing Seth, I've always been very strict in the things that I do and kind of the regimented lifestyle you have to compete at a high level. Seth is like kind of a nutcase. Like, dude is he's always training, and he owns a gym. So at that point where you're not, like, I was still in school at the time. So I think Seth might have finished his degree, but I'm not sure if he's doing it online or not. But I mean, when you own a gym and that's your sole responsibility, he was in there almost like all day, just training and being a part of it. And his diet is on point, does like extra work, comes in, helps other people. So like being around, like having that kind of like training partner really helps you stay focused. And being when I was in college, I was super determined to be successful, where a lot of guys on the team would just want to, I want to make it to the nationals. And I'm like, well, you don't want to win? You don't want to win nationals? And like a lot of people just kind of like want to make it to the show, but they don't want to be like the star. But
Right.
I've always wanted to be the star. I never wanted to just make it. So I always set very high goals and high demands for myself. And Seth's the exact same way. You know, if we're in practice and we're training together and I take him down or something, he just gets kind of upset. But if he taps me out, I get upset because we're both competitive, and being around people who are motivated always motivates you. But the reason we click, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Continue.
The reason we click so much is we're very alike as far as personality. People have this like misconception that MMA fighters and stuff are like really angry or whatever. Like it's normally like a negative connotation, but we're all kind of dorky. I mean, look at Riddle. Like no one's like, man, that guy's angry. So yeah, like, we're kind of the same. We had like a lot of fun. We used to like do kind of like silly things, and like we would go downtown in a Speedo and like a button-down shirt just because it's funny, it's just trying to just kind of be dorks, and who's really going to mess with like guys that look like us. And we're not like trying to start stuff with people. We're trying to have fun and just kind of be goofy and take a break from like all the seriousness that like training demands from you. So we try to have fun in other ways.
There's so many people who have trained with wrestling and gone into pro wrestling, which obviously when I was super, super young, I was like, oh, wow, they're going to be like pro Olympic people. And then obviously I learned what pro wrestling was, and it's completely different. But, people like the Kurt Angles and Brocks and Shelton Benjamins, and the list goes on and on and on about people who were such high level amateur wrestlers. It's kind of neat to see people like that and then transitioning into the pro ranks in pro wrestling as well. Did you ever get a chance to maybe pick anybody's brains who had gone from the amateur wrestling, the Jake Hagers, and then obviously coming into pro wrestling, and just kind of ask them, hey, what was your reasoning for wanting to go into this after you'd spent so much time with it being a very, very serious, legitimate type of sport?
I never really asked anyone that question before. Actually, I never thought about it. I didn't spend a lot of time, but I spent enough time like with Gable, just kind of like training from him and learning from him. But I never thought to ask him like what made him want to do it. Sometimes I feel like people are like, oh, it's none of your business. I'm like, okay, because some people are motivated for different reasons. So that never really crossed my mind. But next time I talk to him, maybe I'll ask him like, hey man, what made you want to do it?
I always love watching wrestling for the Olympic aspect of it, because people dedicate their entire lives, literally, to getting to that moment. And so many people, like with Jake Hager as well, and yourself, I mean, competing at a high level collegiately, that is very daunting and very grueling. Talk to me a little bit about what that was like in college. I mean, what would your schedule be, and how would you make sure that you're always staying on top of your game to continue to perform at such a high level under huge spotlight?
I think it's a lot of it's mental toughness. As like cliche and lame as that sounds, it's really putting the pen to paper. And typical day for me when I was competing would be wake up and train. So whenever time that was, pretty early, like sometimes 6:30, sometimes 7. Um, some sort of training would be like some sort of practice or like a run, and then classes. I was a personal trainer, so I trained clients, and would swim a lot, and then like wrestling practice and the gym and homework. So it's pretty much like nonstop. And at a certain point, you kind of get used to doing that. It feels weird when you stop. When like we were off season, I'm like bored. Like, what do I do? Like, I feel like such a loser. I'm like, well, I just want to go train. So like, I guess MMA was like that outlet where I was able to like do that, like transfer my energy to something else and stay kind of busy. So like those type of things, like it's very regimented life, and I feel like if you want to be good at it, you kind of have to make sacrifices. And wrestling is definitely like not one of those like seasonal sports. Most sports aren't. If you're dedicated or good at them, you do them all the time to stay good. So like I missed out on a lot of things. Like nationals was during spring break. So like in college, like spring break's like a really big deal for a lot of people. I never got to experience that. All 4 years, I missed all spring breaks. So like I never really got to like experience that real college experience. But you don't miss what you don't have. So like I never really cared too much about that kind of stuff because like I was very disciplined. And then like some people are like, oh, that's really cool, but like I don't know, I kind of feel kind of lame, man, because like I didn't drink a lot in college, and because I was so focused on training, and even I worked at a bar, so it's just like, well, you don't drink? Like, no, Dad, training in like 3 hours. I'm not drinking. So I spent so much time like being real strict, and I'm kind of like really lame now, and like I don't really do a lot. So like even now I don't really drink a lot, or yeah, like so after shows the boys like, let's go have a beer. I'm like, I'll have a water. And like, everyone gives me a lot of like Silas like really gave me a hard time when we were tagged. He was like, oh, you're drinking water, Josh? Like, come on, man. I'm like, no, I'm good, dude. I'm just gonna drink this water and lime. Real lame. So yeah, it's kind of translates over.
So talk about some of your accolades here, because obviously you have a plethora of them, but tell some of our audience about some of the things that you achieved, because you have a lot of credentials behind you.
I'm not sure. Wait, which way is it going? Oh, that's okay. So that way, that's it. So that one right there, that first one, that's when I won nationals in college as a freshman. 2011 was. What did I do? What was I, 19-1? I think was my record that year. That's pretty good, I guess. And then my sophomore, sophomore, junior, senior, I ended up taking second, fourth, and third. I know it's weird. You go start at the top and you're going downhill. Yeah, my sophomore year, kind of like I'm coming off being a national champ, so defending is really hard. It's like super stressful. Like I put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself, like there'd be times if someone like score on me in practice, I would throw like a little bitch fit and I'd get mad. Like I was like, yo, fuck this. I would like throw stuff. Like, yo, I'm so angry because like you like put such a high level of stress like on yourself and you're demanding so much and like no one was putting that pressure on me but myself. So, you know, and then my sophomore year and overtime, double overtime and semifinals, I blew my knee out. Oh. And everyone's like, oh, I blew my knee out. I can't, you know, whatever. But no, I really did. And so I ended up wrestling in the finals anyway because, like, oh, whatever. And then, like, I lost in the finals. Oh, so, like, that was just like, meh. And then just there's, like, you know, third and fourth, whatever. So, yeah, so I'm a national champ, a runner-up, and a 4-time All-American, 4-time conference champion. Wow. I was 2-year team captain. And I think my record is... what does it say? 108 and 16 and wow. 54 pins. So half of my wins are by pin.
Tell me a little bit about when you go from the amateur ranks, and a lot of people end up wanting to go and then transition to Olympic training. We've heard a little bit about that, but, you know, obviously we're novices. We haven't, you know, been in that situation before. Josh, what is the next step if somebody who's been very successful in college wants to take that next step, and how difficult and what do you have to do to start training for something like that?
I'm not super familiar with people who do college and then go to the Olympics because they're not the same style.
Sure.
Collegiate wrestling is folk style, and the United States is the only country that does folk style. So I'm pretty sure if you have Olympic aspirations, you start very young and you're doing freestyle and Greco, because the rules are very different in college. You're not doing them. So if like that's what you want, you don't really go to college. I think you start going to the facility in Colorado to train in the Olympics. I think there's like 1 or 2 colleges that do the Olympic, like specific Olympic wrestling, and like I think they rotate in some of the college tournaments, but and that's like a very different style that I didn't like it. I wasn't a big fan of the rules and folk style and Greco, so I just didn't want to do it. Because people ask like, well, you didn't want to go to the Olympics? So like, yeah, it'd be cool if they did folk style, but they don't. So I was like never into freestyle and Greco, so I never wanted to do it.
So tell us a little bit about, you know, because we're novices, what would be the difference between folk style and Greco-Roman, and what was the difference as to why you would say, hey, I'm not really a fan of that?
Well, in high school, I was pretty small. I wrestled like 145. I was a very tiny guy. So I wasn't like super strong or anything. And like Greco to me was all upper body. There's no leg. You can't like touch the legs or attack the legs. And I liked shooting. I like taking shots and attacking legs. So I was like, well, that's already gone. I don't want to do that. So like freestyle and Greco, or freestyle and folk style, different. A lot of like their point scoring system. Just like a small example, if I just expose your back, it's like if you can be flat and you can essentially like avoid being turned, but if I expose you just a little bit, it's automatically 2 points. But in folk style, if I expose your back, I have to keep you there for I believe it's 3 seconds just to get points. For freestyle, just a quick point exposure, and then like if someone is flat, I can't lock my hands in folk style while they're on the ground. That's I think it's a warning. It might be 1. I think it's a warning now. I'm not sure if the new rules, but in freestyle that's encouraged, like because you have to gut wrench and stuff, like the amplitude of the throw. So in freestyle you can do a 5-point throw, which is like arching, like feet to back, is legal, but in folk style that's illegal. So you can't really slam people as aggressively. I mean, there's ways to get around it. I've done it a couple of times, but. Yeah, it's like those kind of rules are different. Even like the referee's positioning is different, like parterre versus just referee's position. I could get on my floor and show you, but I can't. But yeah, so there's just a lot of different rules like that. Just point scoring system was something I just wasn't really into it that much. More lifting, and didn't really work out in high school. I was like, I don't want to do that.
Being in pro wrestling, you know, have you come across some people who've done a lot of amateur wrestling where you have something, you know, in common that you can kind of talk about and kind of reminisce on some things?
Yeah. I mean, NXT was like my first really big exposure to other accomplished wrestlers. You know, there was I'm trying to think of their real names now because everyone's got 2. Sawyer Fulton, what was his name? Jacob Southwick. He was an accomplished amateur wrestler. Levi Cooper, Chaz Betts. What's Dawkins' real name? Well, whatever it is, I can't remember. It's Dawkins.
Yeah.
But yes, like it was cool being around those guys and like trying to learn from them. And now more so on the independents. How do I phrase that without sounding like a total prick? A lot of people say they train, or they're like, "Oh, yeah, do this or that," and you're like, "I've watched you. I don't think you do." So that's always been interesting. A lot of people like. It's cool to train in it, and yeah, it's awesome. But like when you're really good at something, you can tell when people aren't really like how good they say they are. If that makes any sense.
No, it does.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I think it's cool that people are trying to do other things and to excel in other sports or add things so their arsenal, so they can be more marketable or better in our new sport, which is pro wrestling. But yeah, I haven't really encountered like too many high level amateur guys on the indies. Ray Jazz, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's a very accomplished amateur wrestler, and like we're cool. I think we're wrestling soon. I think we're wrestling in April 10th in New York for Catalyst Wrestling. I think we're going to do a Pure Rules match. I'm really looking forward to that, actually.
Oh, that should be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just hope he doesn't throw me on my head.
So, you go from this extensive career with being a wrestler and training and doing all these things. Did you feel like once you got into NXT and training there and whatnot, that it wasn't as hard as it would have been for people who had not gone the road you had gone? Or did you feel like what they had put you through was just as equally as grueling?
I don't know how to answer that without people getting mad at me.
Feel free
to be honest,
answer however you want.
To be honest, I kind of thought the training was easy. We had the tryout. I'm not sure what the tryouts are like now, just because I'm not there. But I remember, so like right after I had almost finished wrestling for maybe like a couple months. And I was still training at the time, so I wasn't out of shape by any means. But like they're very cardio heavy. It's almost like, here, let's just try to kill you. And I was like, all right. So like I was in really good shape, and it was like very easy. And like people are like throwing up. I'm not kidding. I haven't really seen too many athletes like die in training just because they were like in college we're all like in pretty good shape. But man, I just seen these dudes that look in shape and they're like gassing out. And I was like, do better. So like you just the training it's not as intense. And I'm sure, yeah, you can make someone do blow up drills and they're gonna get tired. But I mean, like, I didn't think it was as intense. Like the only part that was the hardest was like the mental strain of like having all these small components to worry about, and those types of things were difficult. But as far as the training itself, I don't even think it's close to being as intense as like a combat sport is.
Yeah, and even collegiate. I would not even put that in the same category. Once again, no offense to pro wrestling.
Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying pro wrestling is easy.
Right.
It's
different.
It's not. But I mean, I don't think they're comparable by any means. Oh, by some means, not a lot.
So, what would you say were some of the really high spots that you learned while you were there? I mean, who were some of the people who had some really good advice to give you as far as adapting and how to kind of enter the world of pro wrestling? Any really interesting conversations during that time?
Are you talking about NXT specifically?
Correct.
Okay. So I spent a lot of time with Norman Smiley. That was like my main coach. I think just because stylistically it made sense for me to be with him. Adam Pearce as well was like, I spent a lot of time with Adam. So those two are like my main peeps. They're the best. I got to spend some time with Billy before he left NXT. And then we spent a lot of time together after I got released. It's like that. Just sitting under that tree is like incredible. And as far as like other people, I know like John Cena came in one time, and I think it was like Buddy Murphy, myself, and maybe it might have been Blake. I know there's one more person there, but we were just kind of in. They have like a ring, but it's not like wood in it. It's like crash patty, so it's like all soft, which is like awesome. It's like a big mattress. You like practice all the moves on. And like we're sitting there like messing around, and like John walks in, and he's just like shooting the shit with us, and we're just like, "Hey, man, hey, it was cool to talk to John for a little while." It's kind of hard to like. Well, I guess that depends who you are. But for me specifically, I didn't think like I could walk up to someone like working out in the gym. Like Taker was there a couple times, and I got to drop like an elbow on Taker's leg and like work it for a couple minutes. It was really cool. And like this is the point where I hadn't even like learned how to lock up yet. Like we were just doing like drills and running and hitting the ropes. He was talking to Bill DeMont at the time was the coach. He was talking to Bill and then like talking to our class. So we were the beginner class, and he's like, "Hey, shooter, come work my leg." And I was like, "What is that?" I'm just like,
wow.
Well, okay. He goes, "All right, man, just drop this elbow on it." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Okay." I was like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." I'm like working it, and he's like talking and like working with me. I was like, "Yes, this is the best ever," because like I'm a huge Undertaker fan. So like, yeah, that was like really cool for me. So that was probably like the highest moment I've ever had at NXT. I talked to Mark Henry a couple times when he was in the weight room, because sometimes those guys will come in while we're working out, and that environment's a little easier to talk to them. But like when they're trying to get in the ring for rehab or to work on something, it's not very easy to talk to them. Samoa Joe was really cool. He offers a lot of advice. I didn't personally have like individual conversations with him, but he had talked to groups or had been guests in class and stuff. And there's a lot of people there that I learned from as well, like talent-wise.
It seems like the way you describe it, they had a pretty good program. Would you say that looking back at it now, where you are in your career, having done this for quite a long time now, do you think that they covered everything and they really hit upon the most important things early on for somebody in their career?
Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job of laying the foundation for anyone trying to get into wrestling, because I mean you can watch all the different products and see the different styles. Like WWE has a style, ROH has a style, AEW has a style, Impact has a style. So they kind of prepare you for just the WWE style, which is cool because that's where you work. That's the company you work for. So like you're very versed in like that style. So when I left, like I'm like, all right, guys, we're gonna do it like this. They're like, hey man, this isn't WWE, dude. You can do it differently if you want. I'm like, what? Are there other ways? So like they do a great job of like planning it in your head and stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to think of like there's like the aspects they cover. You know, they do work on character development and promo stuff. And I think one of like the hardest things there is like you have so many people that are knowledgeable and like in your ear. You know, like at the time you had like Billy Gunn, Bill DeMott, Matt Bloom, Norman, Adam, Terry, and Brookside. So like you get all of it. It's like, well, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, well, yeah, Billy, you're 6'5", 280. Like, of course you're not going to do a double leg takedown, man. Like, okay, I won't do it either. You know, it's just like I don't know. And then like you just get so many different things, and it's almost overwhelming. And like, looking back at it, you're asking like every single coach, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Because you want approval and like you just want feedback because you want more. At least for me, like as an athlete, like a combat athlete, like I want more. I want like the next thing. So I'm always trying to get, hey, what can I do more? Like, what's this? What can I do for that? So that was just overwhelming. And like sometimes now, talking to the boys, if you ask too many people, too many things, you're going to get so many different responses because we all wrestle differently or whatever. It's like at that point or now I have to like really pick and choose like who I ask for critiques or whatever, because not everything applies to everybody. Go ahead.
You had mentioned earlier the WWE style, and we hear so much about they have their own style. So what is, when they say the WWE style, what does that mean exactly?
When you think of like this is a very interesting question to ask. Put me in the spot. Because then it's like, oh, are they shitting on this style? No. I think like it's a very so if like basic formula of a match, man, I'm not saying you don't know what it is, but some people don't know what it is. And
Sure.
you got like people teach it differently, but you have like oh man, I gotta see if I know it. Hold on. It's like the shine, the cut off, the heat, comeback, and the finish, like the 5 things that make up a match. And if it's not like a heavy story, like a main event match or something, you can probably watch a match and like know what part is coming up just based on the moves. And so like that style is just, it's kind of very formulated, and people are kind of doing not the same things, but it's structurally about the same. Um, I know like in the Ring of Honor, it's a little more fast paced, or I know I speak for myself and like guys like Gresham and Lethal and like the Briscoes, we have, it's all like wrestling is all like kind of the same thing. Like those are the typical 5 things. But now if we take like some parts and move them, or components in one and move it here, it's a little different. But like you're definitely not going to do like a striking sequence in the Shine in WWE. But like I did it last week in the Shine of the Heads, do a strike exchange real quick, just to mix it up and make things different. And sometimes well, I guess I wasn't at that experience level where I could have tried to do it, but I've heard where they don't really encourage like a lot of that kind of stuff. But
Would you get any
there?
Would you get any type of grief? Or, I mean, when they come, hey, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Was it very much like that, correcting you, or was it more of, hey, going through a tutelage aspect of it?
For me personally, no, I was very, very A, B, C, and D, because I didn't know enough. I didn't know any better to be an individual. But I had seen other guys come in and they were trying to like tame them down or like pull them in. I remember like Andrade or La Sombra when he came in and like he was doing a lot of wild stuff. I was like, damn, they can let you do that. And he's doing like top rope Rondas to the floor on like the first match. And it was like, they don't like that on the first match. And like, hey, you don't do that. So yeah, I didn't experience that because I personally just didn't have the experience to go against like the system, so to speak. But nothing wrong with their system because it works, right? They're a multi-billion-dollar company. There's nothing wrong with it.
They're doing something right.
Yeah, they're doing something right. So yeah, so like I saw it and like I've heard about it, but personally I just wasn't good enough to think for myself.
As far as promos and character development for somebody, and I don't know personally, who may not be, because I've talked to Jerry Lynn about this a ton of times, and Jerry has said to me, I wasn't the most outgoing person. In fact, I would classify myself as shy, and I didn't really want to talk. And Mikey would tell me the same thing. He would say, in the ring, I can perform because it's not just solely me. And when it comes to talk on the microphone, that's a completely different world where it is completely, based upon what you have to say, how you deliver it, all of that. What was your thoughts on, developing how do I speak on the microphone or a promo? Were you naturally super confident and outgoing before you had gotten there, or was that something that just had to come with time and experience?
I'd like to say I think I have like a natural charisma, but knowing like when we have promo classes and things like that, for a little while for the beginners you're just trying to like just get comfortable talking. And Dusty was the promo coach at the time, so like learning from Dusty was like really awesome, just to kind of just like hear him talk and just sit there and hear stories and try things. And they have like a promo room where you go in and you like type in like your little keypad and then you record it and you guys can watch it back and the coaches watch it. So if you think you're cutting a good promo for this character you're trying to develop, you go, hey, Coach Bloom, I recorded this promo for this character I'm trying. Can you watch it and tell me what you guys think? So like that option was there. I recall at the time you're like, I never made it to TV, or I didn't have like a character per se. So you're just really trying to stick stuff to see what sticks on the wall. And, and at that time you're just trying to figure out what works. And like, well, what worked for Baron Corbin is not going to work for Josh Woods, or like aspects of it might. And like Regal was in a lot, and like he was very, very helpful. And obviously he's really good at that kind of stuff. So I was trying this. I don't know why. I think Dusty's like, just try something like just that's just not you. It's just gonna make you comfortable and just like you can have fun with it. I came with this like snot rich kid character, and like I was just like, oh my dad paid for all these like training partners, and like that's how I got cauliflower ear because we paid for these private coaches, and that's how I got good at MMA and blah blah blah. So like that allowed me to kind of come out of my shell and I just get comfortable talking as this character and like fast forward to now, I just like have more experience and like have more of an idea who Josh Woods is, and doing the stuff with the foundation and like really being into the pure style of wrestling has definitely helped shape how I think or when I'm talking about someone, like why I'm talking about them a certain way or why I would wrestle them if they're, as cliche as it sounds, like if they're like an honorable person or they're dishonorable, so things like that.
It seems like there's so many things that can just occupy so much of your mind, outside of the training itself and learning how to, do the psychology in the ring and perform the moves. And then on top of it, you got to learn, well, how do I talk and how do I cut a promo and how do I develop a character? I mean, I feel like there's a lot going on and there's a lot of pressure that I'm sure people put on themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot, man. And like when you're new, you're just trying to like you're trying to not get lost. You're trying to figure it out. You're trying to ask questions. You're trying to, well, what can I do? What do you guys want from me? And you're not always getting that there. So you're like, well, if you don't know what you want, how am I supposed to know what you want? So you're doing a lot of like second guessing or like stressing, and yeah, like that was hard. Like, cause like I know I don't have in this world. You don't have control over it. Like I can't make them put me in a storyline. I can't make them push me, but like I can only work hard, and sometimes they just don't have anything for you. They're like, yeah, I'm sorry, we just don't have anything. I'm like, it's cool, but like when you're in like a real sport, as like taboo as that sounds, like when you're in like God, don't cancel me. Oh my God, no. Like in wrestling, like in college, hey, like I wanted to be the starter, so I can beat you, and now I'm the starter, and I can control that. I want to compete in this tournament. I'm gonna go compete in it, and if I win, it's because I won. Like wrestling is very subjective, and someone's putting you in a position, and like sometimes that's hard to deal with as an athlete who is used to being in control of their life and how you measure success. Like how you measure success in pro wrestling is very different. And sometimes like I still struggle with that a little bit because I'm so used to being in control of my narrative, so to speak. So yeah,
it's hard letting go of some of that control, especially when you're in a more of entertainment line of work where, like you said before, it is so subjective, and no matter what you do, it's still not necessarily in your hands. It's in the hands of the powers that be. And I can definitely see where that would make some people put their heads against a wall.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult sometimes, and I've been very fortunate to have people that have like had my back, and like I come on my call all the time. I feel bad for Jay Lethal because like we're really close, and I'm like, hey Jay, man, what do you think about this? He's like, dude, no. I'm always running stuff by Jay and bothering him, and I'm very fortunate to have like that outlet of someone who's been like as accomplished as he is, and if you've ever talked to Jay, he's an amazing human, and
yes,
and like one of the most selfless individuals I know, and he's like always trying to help, and like I know sometimes like I definitely stress him out. I probably give him frustrated. I'm very frustrated to deal with because I ask a lot of questions. It's not because like I'm trying to bother him. I just don't really know. I don't have a lot of experience in like some of the stuff I have to deal with right now. So having that outlet has been really great.
Well, and I think a lot of people, when you don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah, you can't get what you don't ask for.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable asking. But once again, from your background, you're thirsting for this knowledge. You're wanting to know. You have been, your entire life has been bred on, hey, what do I need to do? How do I do this? Blah, 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 blah. And then, now you're in an industry where it's a little bit different.
Just a little.
Would you say with athletes like yourself, the next in line concept that they have, the NIL with WWE, do you like that concept now where it's more of a transitional portal for people like yourself who are college athletes who have trained their whole lives to segue into a developmental, or do you think that, you know what, they could just go right into a training?
Man, it's hard to say because like I'm not experiencing what that is like firsthand, so I don't really know like what's the best answer. But I think like having the ability to segue into the sport is great. I'm sure most of those athletes could just come right into training and excel. So I think like any program that reaches out and like tries to help any college athlete to get to like the next level or like find the next profession if it's not in that field, I think it's an awesome opportunity. And like having I think being different, right? Like if I came from football or I came from wrestling or I came from highlight, I'm a different athlete. So like my brain will think different, I'll move different, my reflexes are different. But if I only know pro wrestling, I'm one dimensional. Where guys and girls that have that different background, I think it's great. I think I think like I think that's more beneficial to the business because people who are coming in like already have like an understanding of like respect and discipline, and they're going to work hard because they're used to doing it. And there are people that just kind of come in and expect things to be given to them, like, oh, I've been on the indies for 10 years, like I'm here, I deserve this, I earned it, or however mindset they have that they think things should be given to them. And I'm not saying everyone's like that. I mean, we've all seen both sides, but people who are coming from that background of like a college level, they want to keep learning and growing, and most of them are pretty good. They're not like jerks or whatever. So like they have a thirst for knowledge, and they're gonna keep working hard. Not saying like the average person that comes in, hey, I want to be a pro wrestler, but there's a different kind of mentality that comes to it.
It's a different mindset completely because that's all you know. That's in your DNA is to be a champion and to train and do this and to do that. So let's kind of progress here. You leave WWE and then obviously you start doing some things on the indies. What was it like, getting onto the indies, and what were your experiences like? Obviously, you're fresh out of this world that wanted you to do things a certain way. Did you have some level of freedom or feeling like, man, I can really start to explore a little bit more of who I am and try some different things and maybe step out of my comfort zone when you were working on the independents in the beginning?
So right after NXT, I didn't really do a lot of independence. I going from college to NXT, and then being released in that short window between NXT and ROH. It was kind of hard to get onto shows. I didn't have that independent background, so like there are a lot of guys that have connections when they go in because they come from the independents and they have those relationships, and like I didn't have that, so like I didn't really get to explore too much. And I was barely in 2 years, so I didn't know that I could be more, I could be different, I could be the Josh Woods that I am now. I didn't know that person existed. So I didn't have the confidence or experience to be like, hey, I can do things different. It took me until all this time, the past 4 years of being a Ring of Honor, to learn like, hey, there's more than one way to do things. There's a different you out there. And I think like this version of myself is the best version, and forever learning and growing. Now, this question is relatable to now because I'm just getting into the independence and trying to build those relationships. So like that's been pretty difficult too. And that's like also reverting back to our earlier conversation about like the mental strain and stuff. Cause I can't make a person book me. I can't make someone want me to be on their show no matter how hard I'm working, and I can't control that. And let's be honest, there are some not good wrestlers out there. Let's be real. That's a real thing. There are some not good college athletes. They're still college athletes, but it's like, are you though? It's like that's kind of hard to be like, man, like I could do that. And then it isn't like a negative thing, but because you want to be like on that higher elevated level. Seeing some of the guys like that have had that prior experience, like ROH kind of shuts down, they're on this hiatus and they're right back to doing bookings again. It's like, well, I want that too. Like, how do I get that? and it's not coming from a place of like of negative. It's like, man, like I want that too. So I'm really trying to build these relationships with people because like I love wrestling, man. Like I think I'm good at it enough to keep going. I love what I do, and like I love like interacting with people and like being in front of everyone and like meeting people and stuff. So it's something I'm really trying to be really good at, and like this part's been hard. This trying to navigate this like independent waters and reaching out to people and responding and figuring out how this side of the business works. And again, I'll go back to Jay. I go, hey Jay, man, what do I say to this promoter? Like, what do I do? They said this. What do I say? So it's just like a lot of, hey man, help me, please, dude. I need help. It's like that's right now it's been a little difficult, and like some days are better than others, man. You're like, dude, I reached out to 10 promotions and none of them are responding. But I was like, oh, what do I do? And it's just a matter. It's just there's a lot of people out there right now, and there's a lot. So I'm just trying to keep my head up and just make these relationships.
I think that's like we said before, the hardest thing too is you put so many out there and you may only get one or two calls back, and it is frustrating, especially with everything that's gone on with ROH. Have you been told any more information about what may be or anything to that nature?
I wish I had, man. I don't really know if any of us have been told anything besides John, because that's the only match that's been announced. Like none of us have heard anything. When I talk to, I'm not sure what you guys know him as, or I'll just say our booker, but I'm sure you know his name. Talking to him as like this was a little while ago, I said, hey man, like, am I gonna be on this show? Like, we're all curious about where our spots are now. This is a real serious issue, man. They took good care of us during the pandemic and stuff, but this was like a blow, man. This really was an adjustment. And they said like, yeah, you're gonna be on the show. So I'm hope I'm on the show. I love Ring of Honor, man. They've had their hand in like every major organization, and the talent pool that they've created is everywhere. Their fingerprint is forever in this business. So I'd like to be a part of that new era. None of us have really heard anything, which is surprising considering what is today? The 8th. And it's coming up, man. So hopefully soon, like they're going to contact us and stuff. So we'll see.
So, you had a very brief time with the Indies before. Obviously, you said the Ring of Honor came about. How did that come about exactly? Who contacted whom? How did those conversations all start out? And then obviously walking into Ring of Honor had to have been a really good feeling to say, hey, you know what? I really would like to put my roots down somewhere. So how did the whole Ring of Honor relationship begin?
So God, what was his? Steve Macklin, who's in Impact right now. He came from the Monster Factory, and I made a lot of good friendships in NXT, and like I asked some of the guys like, hey man, like I just use a little bit of help if you could just kind of point me in the right direction, some people to contact. So Steve gave me Danny Cage's number, and I contacted Danny, and he's like, hey man, you can come up to this camp I'm doing in October. I think I'd been released in end of July. So I went up there, which was, that was fun. No, that actually was fun. So I went up there, and then I was rolling around with LSG, and I was like, I was there for the camp. I helped out and, showed some stuff and participated, did a Q&A and whatnot, which was a really cool experience, because I'm like, people want to talk to me about stuff. All right, I'll talk to them. Cool. So I was rolling around with LSG, who has been in Ring of Honor at the time. And Bob Evans was there, and Bob saw me and LSG rolling around. He's like, hey, not bad. I was like, thanks, man. So he's like, ROH having a tryout camp next month. You should go. I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll talk to him for you. So I contacted Delirious and sent them my stuff, and Bob had already contacted them for me. So I went to the tryout camp, which almost didn't happen because we were in hurricane season down here, and my flight had got canceled. So I was in Orlando at the time, so I drove 3 hours home try to make a flight, which is in Fort Lauderdale. That got canceled. I was like, well, not going to make it. So then my uncle lives in Atlanta, so I ended up driving like 10 or 11 hours that day to Atlanta. Luckily, I was able to make it. I made my flight there. I paid for my own hotel. I put myself up. Like they didn't, take care of me like that. I don't think they do that for camps. I'm not really sure. I'm not saying like they're bad, but like I invested in myself.
Sure.
Rightfully so. So I did like a 3-day tryout camp, or 2 days, I think. Man, it was so long ago. And I had a pretty good experience there, and like they kind of evaluated you and got a lot of yeses. I got like 1 no. I'm like, oh man. But then I ended up staying in contact with the office and Delirious, and Top Prospect Tournament came around, and the rest is Wikipedia.
I was just about to say the rest is history.
The rest is history. I made it. I did it.
You have been such a staple with Ring of Honor, and you've had such an incredible career. Has there been any moments where, or maybe I should say a moment, and this might be kind of hard to answer, but when you feel like everything finally clicked, everything finally gelled, like you're like, okay, this is a moment where I feel like everything is hitting on all cylinders. Like I get it. I'm into this groove now. I really feel like everything that I've been, learning and studying and trying to get this together, it all kind of came together.
Yeah, I remember that exact moment actually. Like it was like my favorite moment to talk about. So I think up until this point, I really hadn't done a lot. Like I was still kind of trying to like make my mark or keep growing and improving why I should be there. Because if you look at our roster, like at any point, it's stacked. Like,
yes,
I mean, I'm biased, man, but I think Ring of Honor is like one of like the most talented rosters. Just the skill level is incredible. And it's really hard to get lost in that if you're not as good as everyone else. And like I never felt I was as good as where I should have been. And that's also me putting pressure on myself and expecting more. And that was at the point where I'm like, man, what am I? I can't do anything, because I don't have control over that. Like my training was good, everything was good. And so Silas and I had just started like our team together. And we were doing our thing, and we ended up wrestling the Briscoes for the #1 contender for the tag titles. And I was stressed because I've worked the Briscoes before. I worked Jay, and I had like no reason being in the ring with Jay. So, like, yeah, that's not the greatest match that I've ever had. I was definitely, I don't want to talk about that one, but I definitely didn't deserve it. I shouldn't have been in that match, but I was, and thank God I kept up. And I wrestled Mark a little bit after, which was a lot better. So it's Silas and I. I'm thinking, man, like I'm in the ring with the Briscoes and Silas. Like I remember just being really stressed about it, and we're putting this match together, and like I'm adding things, and I'm like, hey man, that just doesn't make sense. We should try this and that. And they're listening, and they're asking me what I want to do and my input and stuff. And I was thinking like, Chase asked me what I want to do. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. You're going to take one of these boys. Yeah. So I remember like, I watched, I came back after the match, like people liked, like, dude, man, that was awesome. You did great. And like, I'm a very nervous competitor because like, I just demand a lot from myself. And Jeff Cobb is like, hey man, like that was like probably one of your best matches. Like you looked like you belonged there with those guys. And it didn't look like it was 3 people and Josh Woods. It looked like 4 stars in there. Like that like really resonated with me because like I look up to Jeff a lot and I admire him, and he's an incredible talent and he's just a great human all around. So I talked a lot with Jeff when he was there, and he's like, hey man, just be confident in yourself because you're good. And I remember watching that match back after it aired, and I was like, damn dude, like I definitely like I didn't get overshadowed by those guys. Like it was just 4 really good wrestlers in there. Like after that, I kind of had like a newfound confidence, and I think that was like the pivotal. You made it moment. You did it. Yep. You're doing it. You're on the right track.
It's neat when you hit that moment where it's like everything that you've put into it it all of a sudden, light bulb goes off, but then you kind of start morphing, you know what I mean? Like before you start morphing into, hey, I'm going to throw suggestions out, and then other people are responding back. And now it's almost, you feel like you're accepted into this fraternity, if you will. And we've heard a lot of wrestlers say that before. And that's like their coming out moment where it's like, wow, this is where I want to be. And this is where I want to take it to the next level. Because before, and if I can kind of touch upon when you were talking about, in my collegiate career, I always had control over certain things, and I had control over, how I could do things to succeed. Now, obviously, you're back almost at that point where, oh, if I can do this and this and this with these guys, now I can start to go ahead and start climbing again. So it had to have been a good feeling to know, all right, now I have a little bit more control over what's next.
Yeah, like definitely, like it's hard to get like the elevated status, like so to speak, and then once like the pure stuff hit, I was like, "Whew, this is definitely where I'm gonna shine," because like that's right up my alley, and I just even get more confidence and just started believing in myself a lot more, and just the way that those matches are structured and how they're supposed to be, and you can just totally different, and it's what makes it unique, and like I thrive on it because like just my brain is constantly thinking about wrestling, and like I don't sleep a lot, and I'm like, man, what if I do this? I'm trying to move that. I guess I'm a weirdo, man. I'm just like sitting up and like, yeah, I love it. So like that definitely was like the first push to get me to where I'm at now, for sure.
It seems like your style and just the way you train and whatnot, you would be perfect for New Japan. I mean, people like it. Hey, he needs to be in Japan. Well, you got an opportunity to do some stuff with New Japan. What was your take on that as far as how that type of style of wrestling differed from more of a traditional, maybe like a Ring of Honor style or a WWE style? I mean, in a strong style is definitely a big thing. And I feel like that would work really well with you. Am I right?
I mean, I would love to get to New Japan. I feel like specifically just my look, like my presentation, the things that I do, like would fit great there. And I don't really think I would have to change much of how I would formulate a match or how I would put it together just to fit their style, because I think it's very similar to like a Ring of Honor style, or their Ring of Honor is similar to New Japan. Depends on how you look at it or who you ask. Yeah, man, I've always wanted to go there, and like I admire those guys, and I got to work with Kenta a little bit in NXT, and that was like my first real taste of it. Yeah, I helped. He was coming in from rehab, and like I got to roll around with him for like a couple weeks, like a couple hours every week. And that was next level. So I'm like, I know who you are. Like, don't mess me up, man. I don't want none of that. And like I could probably whoop Kenta's ass for real, man. But like he's scary, man. He's still scary, dude. Like I don't want none of that, So like I definitely feel like I would do really well over there, and it'll happen one day. Just when cards fall into the right place. I know COVID is kind of hindering a lot of travel for new people, so just being patient. What can you do?
Ring of Honor has been really great, and I feel like you've really established yourself as far as really kind of a household name here in pro wrestling through their avenue. Who in Ring of Honor would you say, just in your opinion, not necessarily how matches turned out or feuds that you've been in, but who have you really enjoyed? I mean, it's a pleasure to get a chance to work with fill in the blank.
How many can I have? Just one?
You can have as many as you want.
Oh, all right. I'm definitely going to say Silas. That was like the big just kind of turning point for me, and just like the way we interact, and like I just got yelled at by my girlfriend. I did something. I don't know what I did, but I heard her go, "Baby."
There's that tone when it's said. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, Silas definitely would be someone like just our interactions alone. Even before we were teaming and stuff, like Silas, like a pretty intimidating person to kind of like shoot the shit with and goof around with. But he used to bust my chops a lot when I first kind of started out there. So I'm not sure if everybody knows this. Some people might, because I did some interviews of like my earlier part. But when we would travel, like I bring food, but I bring baby food. So don't judge me. But I know, man, it's embarrassing, but whatever. I don't care.
Hey, to each their own. Continue.
Yeah, man. Like, baby food's great, man. It's organic. You give it to babies. It can't be that bad, right? Like, it can't be.
we're giving it to newborns, right?
Exactly. You know, and
This is fine.
they're super feeble, so you know it's got to be good. It's like I would always bring baby food, and just because like it's easy to digest, it's simple, you know. Like a lot of people, like I don't really eat a lot during shows because you know I just like I don't know, I just don't want to be heavy or like you know worrying about digestion or whatever. So I just bring baby food. So Si's like, hey man, because I have a big lunchbox. So sometimes I bring meals, like meals, like real food, not baby food. It's like, hey man, you got any food in there? And I'm like, well, I actually do. And I pull it out like, you want some like some sweet potatoes or some mango? He's like, is that baby food, Josh? And I was like, yeah, man. He's like, are you telling me you're the most badass guy in this gym and you're eating baby food? You're so weird. Like he used to always mess with me like all the time about it. Like we just kind of have interactions and stuff. And like one day he ate, he's like, all right, man, give me your baby food. He's like, this is pretty good. You know, it's like he was with it, you know, it's like we've always had really cool interactions. So when we would do these, like when we were teaming and I would put these skits together, like, oh my God, like I'm not joking. When I would bother Silas all the time, it's like blue, 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 white, blue, 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 like all these ideas I pitched, like, let's do that. And most of the stuff we did was like one take, sometimes two, just to make sure we got it, but almost always was one take because like our chemistry is so good. It's like, dude, you just be an idiot and I'll be me. I'm like, whoa, what? Like, what do you mean, man? You know, so like that was like probably just learning from him and like being able to kind of like express myself and be a little more character based and like work on that because I think that's one thing I was really missing. My ring work has always been, you know, I think slightly above average, like just because my skill set's a little different. But now it's definitely better. It's good. But like that was like you can always teach that, but you can't really teach a character per se, or you can't teach charisma and personality. So Silas helped me get that, which gave me that confidence. So I will credit Silas with being someone who's definitely helped. But if it wasn't Silas, it would be Jay Lethal for sure. Just the way he thinks about things and his experience and knowledge is just, I feel like it's never ending. Every time I train with Jay, I train with Jay a lot. I think it's a big reason from like 2019 to now, like how I got like a lot better with just being around Jay and like learning from him and just such the small things he does, like a lot of people don't get. I think that was game changing and I'm eternally grateful just to pick his brain and just sit there and watch him work because you see like a lot of people who get to that level. Like Jay is at that level, like where a lot of people will never get to. But like Jay trains with his students. He bumps for them. He's in with the ring with them almost every day. And like there's some days where I'm like, man, I'm not taking a bump. It's Tuesday. But then Jay's like bumping around and da-da-da. I'm like, damn it. It's like, now I got it. And I'm like, no. You know, but like Jay is like that guy, man, where he like is just always in there. And that's why he's so good. So like yeah, sharing a ring with Jay or just picking his brain or asking him to watch my matches, like that's something I can never replace or thank him enough. And I've tried to think, it's like, he'll just shut up. Jay doesn't want to hear it, but no, man, he's the best.
We've talked to Jay before, and we've also talked to Silas as well. And Jay, obviously trained with Mikey, is such a funny, honest, just good
Genuine
dude. Yes, just like when you talk to somebody, you automatically get this vibe from them pretty quickly. And it's just what you see is what you get. Just a very nice person that you could literally sit there and either binge watch a bunch of movies together, shoot the shit, get a drink, whatever. And he would be like a true blue friend. And how cool is it to find somebody in life who literally is just that genuinely? Because in this business, I'm sure you've seen, not everybody's a Jay Lethal.
No, and like Jay's got that laugh, man. You know what? His laugh, man, it's so contagious. You almost try to be funny so you can hear it. It's just such a good laugh. And like we always talk about, like me and the boys, like we always talk about it because like Taven, myself, and Vinny, we all work out together. So like we're always talking about Jay's laugh. Like when we're all hanging out, like we just love making him laugh. He's the best.
Not to jump on the Jay thing, but the Macho Man stuff and the Ric Flair stuff, we brought that up when we were talking to Jay. That was gold. Like I can still watch those clips now and just literally laugh my ass off. And it's like you can really tell when someone's enjoying themselves when they literally get to just be themselves and just really let that fandom actually come out as well. That's a great group of people that you get to spend so much time with in Ring of Honor. Let me ask you this. You've done some stuff with AEW, Daniel Garcia, Sean Spears. Any chance? I mean, you don't have to say anything, but we might see more of you in AEW.
I mean, that's always on the table, right? I would love to be there. I think I would thrive there. Obviously I can't make Tony sign me, but any opportunity that, unless I can. No, I'm just kidding. No, Tony's really cool. I was just there on Saturday and worked Daniel Garcia, and it was fun, man. Like stylistically, we meshed well together. I think I could do really well there. Just as far as just what I bring is probably pretty different than everyone else there. I think, yes, it is. I would like to be there if that was an option on the table. A lot of the people that are there in position of power come from Ring of Honor, so I do have like a really good relationship with everyone there, and they're great. And if I got to be there, I would love it. Now, if not, hey man, it's okay too. It's not the end of the world. There's a lot of stuff coming up, and I live in Florida, and there's a March, there's a lot of Florida stuff, so I'll probably be at a lot of them, most of them.
How cool is it with Samoa Joe and William Regal, who are, free agents right now, and I think we both agree really good coaches. Do you think wherever they land is definitely going to benefit greatly just from their tutelage?
Yeah, no matter what role you put either one of them in, like any company would benefit to have them. If you use Joe as a talent or as a coach or as like a GM, just he has like a presence. It's next to none. There's no way that no one could benefit from that. And like just Regal as well, as an agent, as a coach, a producer. So I think both people definitely won't have a problem being anywhere if they wanted to be somewhere. It's just a matter of what they want. I think they're both great.
Billy obviously is an AEW, and his boys are, and I am a big fan of the Gun Club. And Billy, you hate to say, for your age, you look great. Billy looks great for any age. I mean,
Dude.
Billy seems to be one of those people who is just, he takes his workouts, he takes his nutrition tremendously serious. I know he does also bodybuilding shows as well. Tell me a little bit about just Billy Gunn and maybe a couple interactions you've had with him.
So after I got released from NXT, Billy was getting ready to go to Japan. So like we got to like really spend a lot of time together in that time period because we were just training together. Like we were in the gym together, we were working out. This was before Austin and Colton got into it. So I really got to spend a lot of time with just Billy. And so there's a couple fun moments that I recall that were great. So I like to cook, all right? So I make like a lot of interesting things. Just for fun. Like I don't like, it's not like gourmet or anything, but like I made like a donut burger or yeah, it's phenomenal, dude. I'll make it for you one day, but I make them a different way than just a donut burger donut. I would do like you have to use Krispy Kreme. You can't use Dunkin' Donuts. I'm sorry. Krispy Kreme is just next level. They glaze the whole thing. It's not just it's just Krispy Kreme or nothing. So it's chocolate sprinkled Krispy Kreme. You put the patty on, slice of cheese, an egg, and then a regular glaze, and then patty, cheese, egg, chocolate cover, sprinkle side down. So you get like I know. Look at your face. It's phenomenal.
What are we clocking in at here at the old calorie count here? Because shit, that's like a week's worth. I mean,
yeah, it's hefty, man. So I don't remember why we made this, but I think I posted something on Instagram. I made one, and Billy's like, "We got to do that," and I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So on my Instagram, I have like a section just for food on like my highlights, or whatever. So you can see a lot of stuff I made on there. But like we made these I made big patties, like half-pound patties each, or a little bit bigger than that. But Billy's just like, he's such a child. He's just like crushing it. He like loves it. That Billy's a big man. Like I've eaten with Billy quite a few times, and I'm just like, where does it go? Like, I think people don't understand how big he is. Because like when you see him on TV, everyone else is really big too. Like in WWE, there like at that time, everyone's just really big. But he's like literally like 6'6", 6'7". He's like 280. He's a man. He's a real man. And like I'm like we're like training. I'm like, man. But he's like such a kid. He's so playful, and it's just so weird because you see him and you talk to him. And he's very intense and he's powerful. But then like he's such a child. He just plays around and has fun because you can tell he just loves what he does. He like loves to be in it, and like those interactions are priceless. And you know, fast forward to now that Austin and Colton are in, and when I was in DC for an independent show, I came to AEW and I worked out with them and stuff, just being backstage and, you know, saying what's up to everybody and just showing face and whatnot. You know, just being around with like all the guys, and it's just, how do you work out seriously when like we're all just kind of shooting the shit, and like, but Billy's like, shut up, and he's just like trying to work out, and we're all trying to kind of have fun, and so it's cool. Yeah, he like definitely takes it seriously. Like he don't, like, I stay with him in the hotel, and he's got all the supplements and stuff. And I asked him for some Tylenol, and he was complaining. He's like, "Oh man, my back hurts because I gave you my Tylenol." I was like, "Wait, I have any more?" He's just his delivery is great, man. He's just next level committed to like being in shape and like looking the part, and it's truly inspiring. But I'm gonna go eat some Panda Express later, and I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, you deserve it. I mean, you're in phenomenal shape. You put the time in.
Yeah, not like Billy though, man. Like Billy's just like, he's a freak, man. He's a freak.
Something I always like to ask people, and I'm not going to take credit for this because I didn't come up with this question, but I think your answer to this question would be fascinating. So we ask people a hot tub time machine. Okay, so I know the title's kind of cliche, kind of corny, but you go back in time, any point in time of fanhood, whether you were super, super young or even to today, there's a match. And I know we all have these stacked ranked matches in our minds, like which ones are our favorites. There's a match. Two guys. One's got to go. You got to go in. What match is it? What are you picking and why?
Shit. I said bad words. Oh my God, sorry.
No, you can cuss all you want.
Oh man, I never know. Sometimes I forget there are rules to some of them.
We have no rules.
Oh man,
we are ruleless.
Hard. Any match, man. There's so many good ones. This isn't fair.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'll talk here while you're thinking here. So we've talked to so many different people, and a lot of people immediately, boom, they know exactly what their match is going to be. Okay. Some people say, well, it could be 1, 2, or 3 things. A lot of the women that we know, boom, they go right to it. So, but it's not uncommon to say, well, you know what? I don't really have a one go-to match. I have maybe 2 or 3 matches that I would like to have seen myself in, you know, if I was fantasy booking. So you can probably pick 2 or 3.
I mean, if it's a specific match, man, I can't narrow it down. But if it's like a specific opponent where I could be against, is that okay?
Let's do that. Specific opponent. So let's forget what card it was or whatnot.
Sure.
Who you got? Who you working here? You're the booker.
Man, I think if I could, at whatever stage it is, let's just call it a pay-per-view, right? Because, like, you know, why not subject myself into the best spot on a WrestleMania maybe, or, you know, like a Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo Dome, whatever.
Oh, that would be interesting. We have not heard a Tokyo Dome yet answer, so you're already cresting yourself into brand new waters here, so I like that.
Yeah, man, you know, wherever it wants to get booked, I don't mind, but maybe like a Chris Benoit. Yeah. I think that would be great.
Let me ask you this also. Are you able to, and I think sometimes it's hard for people, to separate the wrestler from the personal life? Does that make sense?
Like for me specifically, or?
Yeah, well, just in general. Do you feel like for me, when let's take movies, for example, right? Let's say I really don't like said actor. Let's say they're a huge D-bag, right? And just in life. Are you able to separate them from what they do on screen? Because Chris would be a good example. Amazing on screen, amazing person in the locker room. Obviously, personal life went a different route. went a completely different route. Are you able to separate those two, or do you feel like, man, it's really hard?
Yeah, I am separating it because I'm sure a lot of people probably won't say that. Have someone ever said Chris Benoit before? You asked them that question.
We have not gotten that before, and
Probably.
I wonder if it's because of everything that has happened,
like the taboo-ish type stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because of that. Because let's say that hadn't happened. I wonder how many people would say, because really good in the ring. I mean, there's nothing you can really say he didn't do well, because he did.
Yeah, man, for sake of people mistaking things, like I won't say what I would like to say in this particular instance, but yeah, I am separating it because we weren't there. We don't know like what happened. We don't know what kind of things he was dealing with, and like again, like those actions are never okay. Like that, like doing what he did is not justified. But I'm not gonna acknowledge someone who has accomplished a lot and has been an influence to the sport, regardless of what people feel, and that's influenced me. So like if I denounce that, then if I denounce what Chris has done for the sport, then I kind of like being untrue to myself. And like I've had a lot of people that have influenced me in my personal life that are not greatest people, but like they've helped me in some sort of way, and I'm not going to like take that away from them because they've made mistakes. And not saying like I support what he did, but regardless of those things, I still think Chris is a tremendous athlete. And like if like I grew up and like that's some guy like I enjoyed to watch, and I think now if things were a little different and I could go back in time and replace an Eddie and wrestle a Chris, I don't know. I don't know if I want to replace Eddie because, that's a great match to watch too, Eddie and Chris. I've seen a lot of those. So, yeah, like I would like to wrestle Chris. He's got like a very intense style, and I feel like a lot of people like don't know how to give that back, and I like to give it back. So like working with the Briscoes definitely help bring that out a little bit, because if you're not hitting them back, you're just getting your ass beat. Like,
so here's a bigger question: you going to put yourself over? You're in charge.
Ooh, I'm in charge.
I mean, are you going to?
What does the story call for? What does the story call for? I'm a big advocate of storytelling too, man.
I agree. That's a good point.
Like
very good point.
Like as greedily and as selfishly as like, man, I would love to beat Chris Benoit. Like if we were in a story and like that had to fit, great, man. But
it's got to make sense.
Yeah, it's got to make sense. Like it's just winning to win doesn't really make sense, and losing to lose doesn't make sense. But if it means something, it's worth it. Then yeah, I don't really care about that stuff because I won't say what I want to say, but. You're probably smelling what I'm stepping in, but
I know where you're going.
Yeah. So like if it makes sense, like I don't mind, man. I got just even having that opportunity experience is great. But I mean
I'm sorry, continue.
I don't mind it either way.
Let me ask you this. A lot of times from a fan perspective, fans get a lot of caught up into their favorite star winning and losing and whatnot. Is that as big of a deal as fans in our minds make it out to be? Because I think when we ever see somebody losing, I think fans go, well, they're not getting booked the right way, or they deserve better than that, or yada, 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 whatever it may be. Do you feel like, because I feel this way, you can still progress a character, you can still progress a story, and it doesn't necessarily hurt somebody if it's a great match and that person just happens to lose. Like I don't feel like that detracts from that person. Would you agree?
Yeah. I agree a lot, but also like I see the other side of it too. Like as if you look at sports, right? Like I honestly don't watch football or any of that stuff. I just don't enjoy it. But if your hometown team, you love them no matter what, but they always lose, it kind of takes a little bit away from it, because like how do you want to support someone that doesn't win? Like I understand what wrestling is, and like you understand what wrestling is and the point of it, and most fans understand what wrestling is. You're suspending disbelief. Like we all know when we watch Superman and Batman, we know that like it's not real. It's a movie. We know we're watching it, right? So in wrestling, like we want to suspend like what our problems are. Like if I had a really crappy week at work and I know that I'm going to this wrestling show, like I'm dropping all that off. And that hopefully like, the talent is good enough to draw you in and make you forget about those things, and you're putting off those problems that you have. You're taking the time to enjoy something you really enjoy. Why people watch sports or things that they enjoy. So if I have doing this and I see that this character that I love this character so much, and he's just not winning anymore, like you're gonna lose some sort of like draw to them because you want them to succeed, or if it's a heel, I guess you want them to lose, but or you probably want them to win if you like them. But yeah, I think it matters just like a little bit, like wins and losses. But also like I agree that for the right story, someone losing all the time, because when they do win, it'll mean more. But yeah, I'm kicking out of Chris's finish. No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
We're going all the way around to the point where
we're coming back.
I'm kicking
I'm
out.
just gonna slide that in there. So yeah, man. Like I don't know. I wouldn't mind it. Like I just worked Daniel Garcia, and like spoiler, but like I didn't beat him. But like that's not the role why I was there. I wasn't there to, for whatever reason. I was there to do something specific, and I did it.
And you can still show off your talents and who
exactly.
you are.
Yeah, you can get over without going over it. That's like a big thing I've heard Cena say, and so on and so forth. So
one thing Jerry Lynn has, gosh, he said this so many different times to me. He goes, after you've been in it for a while, he goes, you realize, pin me, pay me. And it's just like, you know what? That's right. I go into school sometimes. I know it's going to be a rough day. You know what? Pin me, pay me. Let's just keep this thing moving along.
Yeah.
But
that's smart.
Yeah, it's wrestling is so fascinating to me because it taps into so many different things. Escapism, people who might not get into sports, who get into, living vicariously through these stars that we see on TV. It is very much escapism, and it's great. So next thing I want to ask you, and I promise I know I've gone way longer than I should.
Oh, you're good, man, dude. I love it. I don't mind, man. Conversation flows and stuff. I love it. Like if it's like that awkward silence where it's supposed to like, that's when it's daunting.
Like, have you ever seen the Chris Farley show when he did it on Saturday Night Live? I keep coming back to this.
I've seen a few of them, but yeah, I don't like have it like on my TiVo.
He was talking to oh my gosh, Paul McCartney. Remember that time you were in the Beatles? And oh my God, I've literally watched interviews.
Brutal.
And like you literally are like, I'm gonna slowly click off of this because I feel bad for you.
This isn't one of those because
thank you.
I'm a pretty forward person. I'd be like, hey man, like thanks, but I gotta go. I'm pretty forward.
Yeah, my girlfriend just texted me. The cat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Coughing.
That's another thing too, man. Like especially like with wrestling, like we're so used to being on our phones. Like imagine that you're at a show and like, man, it's just a down moment show. You grab your phone, but my phone's been down the whole time, so like I'm engaged. I love it. That's always a good thing.
So who do you, and you feel free to say whatever you want, who do you really like right now in the game today? Like who do you think is really clicking on all cylinders? Meaning, God, I would love to get a chance to work this person. I feel like not only from a psychology standpoint, they're really good. They're really crisp in the ring. I feel like our styles would mesh really well. I know you had mentioned a couple people previously, but is there any other names that we might be familiar with that we're like, if we were doing some fantasy booking, we would like to see Josh Woods with?
I mean, like I have like quite a few actually, but like first and foremost, like Gresham, but I wrestled John quite a few times, and they're all I think we've had like 8 or 9 matches, and they're all different. And we're both growing, so like obviously John, and he's incredible. Someone I've never worked before, I guess. Well, technically I have, but not in front of people. Kenta. Man, I would love to just go 25 minutes with Kenta, or as long as we could. That would be phenomenal. I watched like a lot of his stuff to kind of get ideas or just be inspired, and that would be something I would love to do. Minoru Suzuki, obviously. I feel like that's like a kind of like a cliche thing. So now my next one is going to sound even like worse, like Daniel Bryan, like having that match. I think, I mean, you have like I'm the last pure champion, man, like, cause I ain't losing it. So, having like one of the best pure champion in the last, I think that kind of is a story I think people would be interested in seeing, and maybe it can happen somewhere. I don't know, or we could work together or something. I don't know. Just speaking into existence.
I was going to say, the more we talk about it, the more it can become real. Hey, that forbidden door.
Yeah. Where's Jerry? Let's talk to him about it.
I was just about to say, I'm going to call Jerry. I'm going to text Jerry after this. I'm going to say, Jerry, listen, hey, We got to
Yeah,
make this
yeah.
happen. We got to get this to happen.
Yeah, because like man, like I think just that dynamic would be great. Even not saying we would have to team, but man, it makes sense. You know, the last pure champion and one of the best. That's a cool thing. It's unique. It's never been done before. Now we'll fast forward to people who like aren't so like mainstream-ish. Man, there's a lot of good people out there. I worked Axel Tischer one time in NXT, but I trained with him a lot, and like we've both grown tremendously since then. So like I would like to wrestle Axel. I never got to wrestle Chad Gable, like really wrestle him. So I think stylistically that could be really cool, and I have a lot of respect for Chad. So that's something I definitely would like to fare with, because he thinks very different, and the way he sets things up and his psychology is great. He gets it, like Chad gets it. One more. I'm trying to think someone not in Ring of Honor, just because like that sounds so lame. Well, I wrestled Jeff Cobb, but not really.
What about a Josh Alexander?
Yeah, I've heard people have said they wanted to see us wrestle. I watched him wrestle Terminus, and like I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm trying, yeah, but, that's a good one. That is a good one. That's pretty good. Yeah, why didn't I think of that?
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like less mainstreamy, like
Oh, I see I knew what you mean.
Yeah, I'm trying to go to like something not like on TV right now, or someone like that that's coming up. That would be.
By the way, Josh, listening to this, I don't think you're not mainstream. It just came to my mind. I was like, wow, this would really stylistically make a lot of sense.
No, stylistically that would be pretty fun. That would be like him and Gresh had a great match.
Geek over that.
That was awesome. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was really sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had always wanted to wrestle Yuta as well. I saw him wrestle in the Pure tournament, and I was like, man, that would be fun to wrestle. Fred Yehai. That's what I was thinking about.
Fred Yehai. Oh my gosh, like good old AAW guy.
Fred is great. Yeah,
we have a good relationship with Danny Daniels and Trent Seberry up at AAW in Chicago, and man, they have got so much talent up there. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I would love to wrestle Fred at AAW. That'd be great.
Once again, see, I can make another dropping my phone. Another text message.
Like, hey man, listen.
Hey Danny, hey Trent, let's make this happen.
You know what's funny? When I was in DC at AEW, I was with Billy, and we were in catering, we were eating, and then Jerry came and sat down, and we were talking a little bit, like him, Billy, and myself. So it's funny that we've already met.
6 degrees of separation, my friend. 6 degrees.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you've been so gracious with your time. I appreciate this. I know we've gone super long, but let me ask you this question before we wrap things up. Where can people find you? Social media, where can they buy merchandise? Where can they support you? The whole 9 yards. Go ahead and throw it out there for us.
So Matt, I keep forgetting to do this, and it's terrible. I haven't made a pro wrestling tees yet. I know it's bad. It's very bad. Paula yelled at me, Billy's wife. She's like, you need to get one. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Paula's scary. Have you met Paula?
I have not.
Whoa. If you thought Billy was scary, no, Billy's like a puppy. You don't mess with Paula. Like Paula's next level. Like Billy's like, yes, ma'am. Like, yeah, what's up? Paula, like, you need to get a wrestling tee. It's like, okay. And I keep forgetting to do it. So I need to do one. But my Instagram and Twitter are at Woodsisthegoods.
I like it.
So that's where I'm at. Man, I have a lot of stuff coming up. I think what's the most recent. Like I know, oh man, I have so much stuff in my schedule coming up right here. Like I know I'm doing the EC3's narrative shows in Orlando and then in Dallas. So I'm excited to do that. I think that like I love what he's doing and like how he's like trying to take the business into his own and make it. But yeah, I have a lot of shows coming up, so there's so many.
So definitely follow you on social media,
follow
guys.
Me and I'll tell you where they all are.
Yes, and then you got to get on that. They got to get on the merch wagon here.
I do, man. It's bad. It's so bad.
If you need a T-shirt, guy, we've got connections. Amazing person who can do t-shirts. I mean, amazing stuff. So I can shoot you some information on that if you're interested.
And I have a great artist too, Richard Fonseca. So if you need an artist, anyone, hit up my boy Richard Fonseca. He's great. He does like a lot of my stuff, all my stuff actually. He's like a bunch of ROH stuff, and you hear a lot of people like they're like, oh, I need a graphic guy, and like Rich has always been on time, and he like works fast too, and like he's very easy to work with. So yeah, I love Rich. He's the man.
We're gonna have to get some of those Josh Wood shirts out very, very soon because I'll be the first one to be sporting one. So
I'm gonna send one to you.
I love it. You know what? I feel like this is the beginning of a great friendship, my friend.
Do we each become best friends?
I think we did.
Oh, all right, man. Hell yeah.
Guys, Josh Woods, please go ahead and follow him on all forms of social media. Support him. If he's going to be in your area, please buy tickets. I mean, guy who is so talented and loves wrestling so much, loves the fans, loves the interactions. It was funny because we were just recently talking to a couple of wrestlers who had some injuries and they're rehabbing, and I said, well, we twist your arm and bring you back again. I thought, well, it's kind of, I don't want to jinx you. So I'm going to start phrasing it this way. Is there any chance we could bring you back for another follow-up conversation, hang out, shoot the shit, and kind of find out more about what's going on with you?
Oh, of course, man. I'm easy to contact, man. So we're already in good standing. So, dude, I love it, man. Like, I'm always astounded when people want to talk to me. I'm like, man, I'm not that cool. Yeah, I feel like I'm lame, man. But I like when people want to talk to me. I think it's pretty exciting.
I don't think you're lame. I think there's a lot of things to you. There's a lot of layers to you that are very, very interesting, and you're really good at storytelling. And I love sitting back and listening. So, you know what? I think this is a good relationship.
Thanks, man. Virtual hug.
That's right. All right, my friend. Thanks
for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tell the missus I send my best, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot, dude. Have a good one.
You too. All right, that is Josh Woods. So much fun, so much of a great conversation, and it was just kind of like, man, the time flies when you are having fun, and it's almost as like I was connecting with somebody I had known for years already, and literally it's the first time I had gotten a chance to speak with him. But when things gel, and we learned so much about his NXT experience, from Ring of Honor, from people who have influenced him, things that he wants to do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, his career in collegiate wrestling, and just so many things that you can take away from this interview. So I know I'll be replaying this multiple times because I know there's going to be things that I am going to say to myself, oh, I wish I would have asked this. But you know what? We'll bring him back for part 2. Why not? He's a great dude, huge star, and I might even get a free t-shirt out of this. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. Can't hurt. Guys, it has been a while, but here's what we're going to do. We are going to have our panel. So please don't go anywhere. We're going to step out for a very short break. You already know what commercial's coming up. You already know. I play it all the time. And it's a little I'm Too Sexy by Mikey Whipwreck. Remember, this is Tuesday night. This is Front Row Material. We'll be right back.